Then welcome everybody to Demystifying AI, sponsored by Sharia.ai. And you're going to hear from an incredible speaker here today. He's got many patents. He's an inventor. He has been a CEO of two major companies in India, two US IPOs, one of them for $240 million. But today he's going to wear the hat of the data scientist and the professor and going to teach you about how you can improve your business, how machine learning works, where it's headed, and again, how you can use it for your company. So please welcome the founder of Sharia.ai, Professor and Dr. Srinivas Kilambi.
Thank you, Jeff, for the kind words. Good day, all of you. Welcome to Sharia AI seminar. And here today, my goal, the purpose is to provide information. Hopefully, it will be very useful, but definitely informative from a scientist and angle of what is AI machine learning, and is it really a mystery, and how, if it is, then how to demystify it so that anybody and everybody can use it in their businesses, lives, data sets, wherever they belong to. So with that introduction, that's the whole idea behind this. So I'm going to talk about AI, the past, the present, and the future. And I'm going to take look at case studies from different verticals, which we have tried, and try to make sense of them in a way which all of you hopefully can understand and follow. So again, with that, thank you very much. I'm going to start this presentation. Hopefully you can see my screen, and it says Sharia AI anywhere, anytime. And our technology is precision ML squared, which is the future of AI. But before we go into the future, we should talk about what's going on. So anyway, so with that, I'm moving forward into the discussion. Okay, so the first step is, what is AI and machine learning, right? So let's first of all talk about that for a minute. What is AI and machine learning? So AI is artificial intelligence, and is basically the simulation of human intelligence processes by a machine or set of machines. It's been there for a long time in different forms. Even Microsoft Word and Excel, before all this grand thing, use some form of intelligence and simulation of human intelligence. So it's not there, it's not brand new, it's been there for a while. The Enigma machine was some sort of AI, and it's how it was broken by Turing during World War II, also belonged to some sort of an AI, and it has evolved considerably since then. The many forms of AI, there's expert systems, fuzzy logic, machine learning, robotics, AR, VR. There's so many different AI possible in the world, and today's topic is focused on one of it, probably in my opinion, the most important, which is machine learning. So we will talk about what is machine learning and how does it help. So machine learning is a branch of AI which uses data and algorithms to accurately imitate the way humans learn. This is very critical. So while AI is a simulation of human intelligence, machine learning is a branch of AI which uses data and algorithms to accurately imitate the way humans learn. And so that's a big step forward. So basically, it looks at what happened, what will happen, and also what are the consequences of what will happen. There are many types of machine learning, and I'll start with the first one, ML 1.0, predictive. Before ChatGPT came into prominence sometime towards the end of last year, predictive machine learning was probably the most important and the most in use. And even now, probably 90% of business users globally use predictive machine learning. And it's basically, as the word is predictive. And its main focus is to look at what happened in the past, look at data from past, understand it, learn from it, train from it, build a model, and then once the training is complete, which could be as long as it needs to, it could be multiple iterations. Once the training is complete and the validation is complete, there has to be training, validate, then it's basically testing or prediction. And that's basically looking at the future, saying, okay, I have learned from the past, from your data. Now, what does your future data in a business, what does it say? What does it predict? So that's what is predictive machine learning. And 90% of commercial tools belong to this category. And so it's very important to understand this before we go into the rest of machine learning. Now, so hopefully the whole idea is learn from the past and predict the future. Understand the hidden patterns, understand the model, understand the data, and if there is a pattern which is even hidden or latent, these algorithms will find that and then use that knowledge to give future predictions. Now, it's not a one-trick pony, predictive machine learning. There are probably 4 of them. Okay, so I'll go to each of them individually. The first one is supervised machine learning or supervised learning, and as the name says, it is basically it has some sort of an external supervision where an expert like me or you will basically tell the model what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what to do when A happened to say B, when B happened to C, and so on. So basically, it looks at label. The most important is the data is labeled. What do you mean by labeled? It means that for this particular row of data, there's an outcome, good or bad, yes or no. Okay, so this basically tells that something it's a human being has already gone in and said, but this happened in the past, this is the outcome. So it's called supervised, and it's again the most used methodology of predictive machine learning is supervised, and it's very useful because most of the times you know what happened in the past, right? You know if your model worked, if your conversion happened on a website, if your patient survived or didn't, or was left the hospital or no. There's so many. So everything, the outcomes are very well documented, known. It's just labeling them to the data, and that's supervised. And it basically looks at the past features, discovers patterns in the training data. The exact opposite of that is unsupervised, where the data is not labeled. Now, this could happen if, for some reason, people forgot to label the data or the outcomes, or look for the outcomes, and you have data and you have no idea what happened, or you took fresh data from a third party, or it is a situation where the outcomes are not clear, black and white. It's not day or night, good or bad, yes or no. It's all gray. It's maybe there are, for example, 20% yes, 80% no. There's so many other permutations and combinations come into play. So in that case, you don't have a labeled data. You don't have a yes or a no, or good or a bad. So in that case, you basically are better off not labeling the data and keeping it unsupervised. It's good to not label rather than to mislabel, right? So in unsupervised learning, you don't have labeled data, but you can still learn from unlabeled data by using what's called clustering. You basically cluster similar patterns. So you say, if Srinivas and Jeff were similar, they purchased TV X, then Steve is very similar to Jeff, is going to likely purchase TV X or whatever. So it's a very, it's basically finding patterns, grouping people, clustering them, and clustering data, and then predicting based on the clusters and the centroids. So it works. A very top example of unsupervised learning algorithm is k-means, and k-means is very useful. There is also one more unsupervised learning, which is called PCA, or principal component analysis. It is used for dimensionality reduction. You should reduce dimensions. Why? It's very important because if you have even to understand a 3-dimensional problem is difficult. Forget about a 30 or a 40. So technologies like PCA, algorithms like PCA, help in removing extra dimensions by creating new dimensions which are based on 2 or 3 previous dimensions or dimensions, however you pronounce them. So it's useful in clustering. It's useful in dimensionality reduction. Supervised learning are like support vector machines, naive Bayes. There's so many of supervised learning algorithms. Third set of algorithms which go under predictive learning is ensemble. And ensemble learning is where you have, as it shows on the left picture or below, is where you have multiple algorithms coming to give one result. So you have different level of training. So you have basically two sets of base algorithms giving to a meta algorithm, and then comes the result. So you can have a KNN with an SVM going together and producing into, let us say, a naive Bayes as the meta, and that produces the result. So you can have multiple layers of algorithms. It's supposed to be generally better because you have more than one algorithm giving the result, and you either follow what's called a voting procedure of majority votes wins, or you take an average of all the data to produce a result. It depends upon, is it a classification? If it's a classification problem, you go for majority votes. If it's a regression problem, you go for an average. Okay, so ensemble learning, you typically have random forest, you have XGBoost, AdaBoost, boosting, then you have blending, stacking, bagging, different algorithms make up ensemble learning. Finally, a class of predictive learning is deep learning. People may call it a different class. I like to call them all under one. And deep learning is basically, the right picture is more based on deep neural networks. So it's not one layer, but it's 2+ layers of neural networks. And this probably is the closest to human beings, to our brain, as multiple layers are trained to learn hierarchical representations of data. So deep learning models excel when the data is very complex, the data is very large, and it takes a lot of time to train, but once trained, they're very good at prediction. Machine learning works with smaller set of data and less complex problems, but it's a lot easier to learn and take less time to give predictions. So there's a trade-off between machine and deep learning. Okay, but deep learning is very good for images, video, audio, text. I think for numbers, you can live with machine learning, but if it is anything else, and especially very complicated, then you have deep learning. So hopefully with this, I've introduced what's called ML 1.0, which is called predictive learning, which is what is predominantly used or available in today's world. Okay, so let's go down to 2.0. Okay, machine learning 2.0, reinforcement learning. This is relatively newer, less used, but very effective. And this is an approach which involves some sort of an agent learning and feedback. So there's a real-time agent. It could be a human, it could be a chatbot, it could be any form of interactive app, which learns based on the feedback given by users at real time. So this is very useful in gaming. You're building a game, you want to see the reaction as the game is progressing, rather than a week later or a day later where people have already got frustrated. You want to see the reaction, especially during trial and training. You don't want it to get too far down the road and too late to learn. So how does it work? It's very similar to predictive learning, but with just one difference. The one difference is there is a feedback agent, and the feedback agent does two things. The feedback agent either rewards or punishes based on the outcome. So if the outcome was good, it'll reward the features or the variables or the metrics which resulted in a positive outcome. If the outcome was bad or is bad, it punishes. So what do you mean by reward and punishment? It basically increases the weights or decreases the weightage given to those features, which result in a positive or a negative outcome. So if it's positive and these 5 features made it work, reward it. Okay? If it's negative, punish them by reducing the weights. So that's what is reinforcement. It's pretty much real time. It's very useful. NVIDIA processors and all are very good at handling reinforcement learning. It's very difficult. It's not an easy machine learning to approach because there is an element of real-time learning or close to quasi-real-time learning, and it's not easily mastered. Rather than predictive machine learning, where you basically have the training, validation, and testing going on in batches separately from real-time predictions. So in reinforcement learning, the learning and the predictions are happening more or less real time. And that's what makes it even more difficult than predictive. Okay, so this was reinforcement learning was the immediate past. Now let's come to the present. Prescriptive learning or generative AI, GPT. This has suddenly from nowhere, to most people, I would say, ChatGPT completely changed the world, and it has, and it will. Everything has completely been disruptive, from in classwork to business to content to websites to even PowerPoints to business plans, you name it. So prescriptive learning uses generative AI. So first of all, what is generative AI? Generative AI is learning from LLMs, large language models available where they're trained on millions to billions, sometimes even trillions of data points and metrics. And from that learning comes basically on-demand, instantaneous content generation. You want to know what to do at this moment right now, and you can't wait for an answer even an hour from now. Generative AI has, if given the backend power of the computer and all that, enough bandwidth, it can generate on the fly content, which can be then used to enhance customer experience, to improve predictions, to improve learning. So that's generative AI. And it's, so as I wrote in an LinkedIn article about a week ago, generative AI is great. It generates content. Unfortunately, generative AI doesn't prescribe. It gives you a content. It still needs some human being or some agent to understand the content and then create or take what's useful out of it and make it into a prescription or into an action. So a prescriptive learning is using the content generated by generative AI or ChatGPT or any such tool, and then learn from it automatically through some sort of a logic, and then produce results or prescriptions. So prescriptions are very critical. Now, I'm having an allergy as we speak right now. And if I go to a doctor, I know that. So I know that the diagnosis is allergy so the doctor will say, well, you could catch cold or pneumonia or whatever. Great, that's prediction. Now give me my prescriptive, my medicine. So without prescriptions, predictions are useless, right? You need actionable outcomes. You need actionable outcomes from the insights generated by predictions. And that's prescriptions. So prescriptions are very critical. There's a big difference between prescriptive learning and generative AI. Generative AI is the precursor to prescriptive learning. So in Shriya, we have used our own GPT, and we are able to generate use cases on the fly, prescriptions on the fly based on the predictions. And you can do multiple layers. Actually, we right now have up to 3 layers, but we can go any number. So you can use the prescription from the first and say, sorry, doc, you gave me amoxicillin, didn't work. Now, okay, I'll learn from that amoxicillin didn't work. So now I'm going to give you ciprofloxacin, or I'm going to give you Augmentin. Okay, if you didn't know amoxicillin didn't work, you go to a different doctor. That doctor is capable of giving the same amoxicillin back to you, and then you will not get better anymore. So it's very critical to have multiple layered of prescriptions learning, so that the first prescription may not be the best. Remember that the first is never the best. You typically want it to get to the second or third before you get the right answer. And that's called prescriptive learning. It is using the results from generative AI to give you the actionable insights you want to produce the desired outcomes you want. Okay. and it can be used in different domains. And in Sria, we have it used in nearly 40 plus. Okay, so this is today. Now let's talk about the future. ML 4.0, precision learning. This is very critical. Okay, so precision learning is something where you have all of them, predictions, descriptions, reinforcements, all of them with greater accuracy and enhanced precision. So when I did my PhD many years ago, and in the qualifier exam, I remember the first question I was asked, can you differentiate between accuracy and precision? Luckily, I was able to on that day. I didn't come prepared, and that's why I became at least a PhD later on. The answer is that if the correct answer is 100 and you scored 98, 101, and 102 as the three numbers as a result, you're reasonably accurate. But if you scored 95, 95, and 95, you are very precise, but you're not accurate. To be both accurate and precise, you want to be 100, 100, and 100, or 99.9, 99.99.9. So precision is getting the same value every time. Accuracy is getting the correct value all the time. Okay, precision is getting the correct and same value all the time. So both accuracy and precision. So that's what makes it 4.0. It's very difficult to be both accurate and precise. This has been my invention for the last 4 to 5 years. I have put together about numerous hours and over $2 million of investors' money, including my own, into creating this algorithm or this technology suite. So it is using what's called ML squared or machine learning squared. And that's basically why it's called squared, is because it uses machine learning to teach machine learning. This is very critical. Okay. So first step is that it basically looks at, say, you have 30, 40 dimensions. Even after dimensionality reduction, you have 10, 20 features. Sorry, it's too difficult to understand. Forget about too difficult to use, right? If you can't understand, it's too difficult to use. So first, let's make it simpler. So it converts what I call a multivariate problem into a bivariate solution. So what does it do? It looks at all the features or variables and says, how can I make this into one super feature, which would represent all the variables at one time? That's what it does. So it's like a weighted average, but it's not really, but it is. It uses about 6 to 8 machine learning algorithms and comes up with this unique score. It's like a credit score. So one credit score tells you more about the credit worthiness of a person, as opposed to 30, 40 different metrics, like how much loan did you take, how much did you repay, how long you were in. All of that is too difficult to understand. But yeah, anything over 780, phenomenal. Anything less than 500, don't touch, or 600. It's clear. Similarly, that's why a single score, S&P 500 index, one number tells you how the market is behaving that day. So similarly, one score is like a super feature, and it's a complete what is called surrogate or a proxy or a better representation of all the features individually, because they're all combined by some sort of a dynamic weighted average. That's what this is. So the first step is to score. So why is it ML squared? It's because it uses machine learning. This score goes back into the algorithms which we have again created to produce better predictions and prescriptions than a standard ML. And I'll show you how. Okay, so basically it uses a three-step methodology: score, correlate, and improve. So the first step is to score. Big deal. I got a score. How does it work? Does it work? What can I do with it? Well, you are to first see if there is some sort of correlation, a positive or a negative, with a business result. Namely, let us say conversion improvement on a website, patient readmission rate, churn reduction, subscription improvement, whatever be the outcomes you want from the data. Is there any correlation between this score, which is a super feature, versus this? If the answer is yes, either a positive or a negative, then this score is now a representation of the outcome and is controllable, because the outcome is post-mortem. You can't control, it's already over. But the score is like a joystick in your hand, in your car. You can change the gears accordingly. So it's in your control. So that's the first step, is get the score. Second step is to correlate. Now it's important, it can be a positive or a negative, because remember, ML squared, square of a negative is always a positive. That's the beauty of mathematics, right? So it could be a strong positive or a strong negative correlation. As long as there is a strong plus or minus correlation, it's worth it. Great. Now what? Then comes the most important difference between precision ML and the rest. Precision ML's main focus, friends, is to improve outcomes. I want to improve the churn reduction or decrease it by 10%. I want to increase my subscription by 20%. I want to increase the conversion by 30%. That is, you're talking about putting a stake on the ground, saying, I want that to reach that level, 30% increase. So you look at your portfolio and says, I want to have like the hedge fund managers, I want to beat the S&P 500 index by at least 10%. Otherwise, nobody's going to give money to me and pay me my management fees. Right? Why would they do that? I put it in a passive Vanguard fund and get it. You want to give it to an active fund because they're going to beat it and beat it big. And whoever beats bigger gets more money. So it's always improving and improving and improving. That's the goal of everybody's life, is to improve ourselves, both as a human being, both as a business, you know. So the improvement of outcomes is critical. None of the other tools, whether it's generative AI, prescriptive, or predictive, actually improve with accuracy and precision. They only suggest, they only predict, they can give you an actionable insight, but I don't know what will happen. But precision ML actually tells you, if you do this 1, 2, 3, 4, you will improve your outcome by 10 or 20%, because that's the goal you put in. It's like putting a target value in Excel. You put that and you run the whole algo around it. And so exactly the same thing. So you basically improve the business outcomes by using the score and correlation. So that, friends, is the biggest improvement Shriya has made in machine learning 4.0, is to give very precise and accurate methods of improvement. So is it all smokes and mirrors? Does it really work? Let's see how it performs. So I'll show this with a couple of with a diagram. This is a process. There's a prediction, there's a prescription, the generative AI. All three of them, with the reinforcement learning, enter precision ML to produce correlate, and improve. So it's a cycle. It's not going to happen without a prediction, prescription, generative AI. Reinforcement learning is not a must, but the remaining three are a must. And it'll go in to the Shriya algorithms, or a set of algorithms which I've invented or co-invented with my co-inventor, Dr. David Dodds, who's retired now. But and we brought this out, and it does what's called score and correlate and then improve. So this is the picture, but the real taste lies in, the real score is tasting the pudding, right? So does it work? So this is an example of a chart of, we have done in numerous verticals, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, the 12 of them shown here. And the increase ranges from flat, the predictive maintenance, to as high as 58% in clinical analysis, or 46% in wireless. Okay, so it's a big range. So Shriya ML 4.0 is definitely greater than equal to standard ML. That we have proven beyond doubt with all these use cases and many more which we have been doing since now. So I will utilize the next few minutes to talk about some specific use cases and how it works, and then we can open up for questions. So I'll take a few of them and work on this. But again, remember, the main goal of precision ML is to improve and not stop with predictions and prescriptions. But Gil, how do I make a 10% or 20% improvements? And tell me what I should do. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. If you, like for example, you want to improve your score from credit score 680 to 800. It's not enough to tell you need to get 800 or 780 to get a loan. Now tell me what I should do to go from 680 to 780. What are the 3 or 4 things which I should do? And they may not all be very easy to do, but at least I should know what it takes to go from 680 to 780. That's what is precision ML. It basically tells you in a very complicated business, using your own data is the most important thing. We are not business experts. So we have no clue how to run your business. But we know your data better than you know. And we will, if there's a pattern in it, we will find it, and precision ML will then eat it, swallow it, whatever, and spit it out a set of actionable insights, which, when implemented, will result in the desired improvement outcome with a certain lag time, a week or a few weeks, depending upon how the data is. Okay, so let's start use cases. Wireless. Well, for every wireless subscriber, you asked, but I know how many of you own wireless stock. I own Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, and if you see what has happened to Verizon and AT&T, this stock way down. Why? Very high churn rate. People just leave, and nobody's satisfied. People leave, and if you ask what's the number one priority of all the wireless, is to keep my existing subscribers intact. Even if I don't get a single new one, Netflix, I want all of them want to keep, because it takes a lot more difficult to get a new subscriber satisfied than to keep an existing subscriber stay. So it's very important to reduce churn rate, employee churn rate, subscriber churn rate, visitor churn rate. The churn is a very important example. So in this particular data set, which we use for a particular wireless company in Europe, I believe, we found that SXI prediction accuracy was about 46% superior to auto ML or standard ML. Okay, that's what in this case. And we found that using ML squared, we were able to show up to 39% higher subscription rates or churn rates was possible. So that's what we were able to show with the data, with their own data. And our target 20% increase was achieved for this data. Okay, so 40% is possible. You can't do all at one time. A 20% was increased by increasing the score or the SXI score, the score from 0.8 to 0.97. And how? One of the outcomes or actionable insights was to basically make sure that the adjusted total revenue over the life of the customer per month, or whatever the cycle is, less than 150.32 for that particular data. So what does it mean? It means that when it crosses that number, people get pissed off. Says, oh my God, I'm paying more than 150 a month? Really? Do I need to pay that much? Let me find somebody else. Now, if it is 149, will you change? Maybe. But data says more people do it at 151 than 149. This is your own data. So see how beautiful it is. So a number of just $2 from 149 to 151 can make a big difference in churn rate. That's what their own data says that. And when it actually did that, they found that they were able to do a 20%. Okay, subscription increase or a churn decrease, either way, whichever way you look at it. Next is for recruiting. A lot of people I know have recruiting companies. And we found from one set of data that we had 83%, can you believe this, higher candidates conversion rates using ML squared. Okay? And they were able to take a 20% increase was possible in step 1 when the score went up from 1.56 to 1.78. The score by itself, friends, has no meaning. Okay? It's just a score, but it's relative. So when you score, all it tells you is, okay, what's to get a 20% increase? My current, I'm 1.56. to get 20% increase in my score, I need to go to 1.78. Now tell me how to get 1.78. One of the things was to make people take talent tests. When more than 60% of the candidates took a talent test, for whatever reason, they were better off than those people who didn't take, and they were hired. So before you present them to a final company, make them take a talent test within your own organization. If they scored well, only then present it. You have a better chance rather than giving every Tom, Dick, and Harry. Because if you keep sending shit talent or bad people, next time you will not be invited to bid. So you have a certain honeymoon period. Make sure it lasts the longest you can, right? So it's good to take talent tests and then send. This is one of the recommendations, not only. It's just one. Just an example. Okay. This is very important. Healthcare. All of us will have a problem in our lives sometime or the other. And we could be into a hospital. Well, that's planned. But what is very scary is unplanned is that, hey, you were not expected to go back. But unfortunately, you did. Why? Most people are not able to figure out what causes people to go back. And in this case here, we were able to do a 20% increase or decrease the number of patients admitted, or increase in not admitted, however you pronounce the English. And one of the prescriptions using precision ML was number of medications taken should be less than 9 a week. Again, phenomenal. Look at this. Look at how much of a stake on the ground is. So 8 a week, not likely to be readmitted. 9, likely to be readmitted. 10, 11, 12, you are going to be admitted. What happens is you develop a lot of, as you take more and more antibiotics, more and more medicines, you generate a lot of resistance to other forms of bugs inside the hospital, and they start playing havoc with your immune system. And lo and behold, when you're back home, in a week or two, you develop different symptoms, and you're back. So if a doctor had this knowledge that for this data set, this is not for every data set, for this data set, I should keep it to less than 8 a week. Look at how much of a savings it is for the hospital, for the insurance, and most important, for the poor patient. That's what's called precision machine learning. This is the power, giving that number, that 9 a week. No other technology, to my knowledge, will give that. Robotics, very different field. Again, 13% superior. But now we were able to say that the robot velocity of how it performs the task should be less than 0.54 meters per second. Wow. So, if it starts performing too fast, it's going to miss the goal or the experiment, whatever it was doing. So what's the number? 0.54 meters per second. Again, very powerful. Now, so website conversion rates. So we found that we can do a 20% increase in website conversion when the session with events, which could be download a video, upload a resume, it could be whatever, have a chat, buy, was basically is greater than or equal to 4. So that's one more thing. We did for data set for IBM here, and we were able to reduce the employee churn rate by close to 20% by saying the total working years were less than 8. Well, so it was their data. And we did for oil and gas production, very scientific. The BHP shut-in pressure, the valve, shut-in pressure inside the valve should be less than or equal to 1,207 kilopascal. Again, you can see how much of a difference is there in what sort of data sets which we performed. education, increase in enrollment rates. So those schools got a higher enrollment where the revenue from a state source is greater than or equal to $230,000. So if you're looking at Georgia Tech versus UGA versus Georgia State, that number from a state source matters. Now, why it matters is not something which we know. We are not here to tell why it matters. That's the state board or the educational institute to look at it. But the data says that you'll have more enrollment if the revenue from a state source, or it means the funds given from the state to that college, it was greater than $230,000, I assume, per year per student, maybe, or whatever it may be. That units. I don't have the units in front of me. That's it. So hopefully I was able to explain what is machine learning, types of machine learning, the past, the present, the future, which is SRIA ML Square 4.0, why it works, how it works, and about 10 case studies of different types where it actually showed that it works.
Well, first off, thank you so much to everyone for joining our webinar today. And a big thank you to our speaker expert, Dr. Srinivas Kilambi. Excellent job. So it was truly a passionate, educational, and an inspirational webinar covering artificial intelligence and machine learning. We covered the current state, but more importantly, we provided a glimpse into the future state of advancements and the power of precision ML squared. An amazing technology for all. And for all that are on the call today, we're providing a special offer to explore the power of SRIA by signing up for our risk-free, no-charge trial. So as an attendee, you'll enter our priority lane for our trial program. So that means you'll move to the head of the line and can even start trialing this month. So if you have data, if you have some goals, let us help you exceed them. So if your data and if you're interested, let's put it, if you're interested and you want to learn more about our free trials, please visit our website, www.sria.ai, or email or phone or call us, those that are on the call here, Jeff, myself, and Dr. Srinivas Kilambi. And also stay tuned for part 2, the future of precision ML squared, which will be announced probably very soon. And with that said, it is such an exciting and transformational time for all businesses. And we are here to really empower that new generation of chief value officers.